Hello everyone, my name is Mitch Kozowski, and today I'd like to talk to you about Scrum Product Management. As a motivation, I found that in personal projects and working with teams, when I've used Scrum, the projects have had much more success. And a lot of you have probably heard of Agile, you've heard of Scrum. How are they related? Agile is a specification and Scrum is an implementation of that specification. So where does the word Scrum actually come from? Well, it actually comes from the game of rugby, and it refers to the way a team works toward to move the ball down the field, as Jeff Sutherland, one of the co-creators of Scrum, says. And if we expand the photo, if you look in the top right, you might recognize yours truly from a few years and a few pounds ago. But you don't need to know anything about rugby to know how to do Scrum. You just need to know that it's about a team working together with different skills and different positions, all working towards the same goal. So a lot of you might hear management and your eyes might gloss over. But I would argue that it's important for a lot of people. The first is managers, like the pointy-haired boss here. So they definitely care about management. They want to make sure their teams work together efficiently and effectively, and that they're delivering their products on time. And as beginning software developers, we will often take on managerial roles or just become full-blown managers. So in that case, you should definitely care about management. Even if you're just a technical employee like Dilbert and you only plan to be a technical employee, you yourself are being managed. So you want to make sure that your time is used on the things that are most important, that you're developing products that really matter. So you still care about management, even as a technical employee. If you're self-employed, you're managing yourself. And then, once again, this is very important. So I'd argue, really, who should care about management is everyone. Everyone in the whole Simpsons town. So how did Scrum come about? In many respects, it was a response to something called the waterfall model, which I'll talk about a little bit right now. In the waterfall model, first you work on requirements for a little bit. Your team gets together, and for 3 weeks, you bang out the requirements for your product. Then you move on to the design, and then the implementation, verification, maintenance, and so forth. The important thing to understand with the waterfall model is that the water doesn't flow upwards. Once you go on from requirements, you never visit it again. And once you go on to implementation, you never go back to it. And so, in theory, this looks very nice. So why did Scrum come as a response to it? Well, in practice, teams that used the waterfall model, they delivered products that were very late, missing core functionality, and way over budget. So Scrum was a response to that in a few different ways. Scrum is shown right here, and it's an iterative cycle, so that's why you see the sprints kind of looping in on themselves. Sprints were 1 to 4 weeks. Usually these days they're about 1 to 2 week cycles. And in a sprint cycle, you kind of go through everything you need to develop an iterative and incremental solution to a product. So you're building something that actually works. Not an entire full-fledged product, but at least a feature that works. So you're going through all those things, those requirements, design, implementation, because oftentimes the implementation does inform the design, and it's useful to think about it that way. So projects that use Scrum are much more efficient, they deliver things much more on time than the waterfall model. So this is a book called The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, and it's by Jeff Sutherland, so it talks about Scrum. It's a decent-sized book, it's 200-some pages, but actually the last 5 pages are really how you implement Scrum. The rest of the book is the why, which really gets into it. So Scrum is extremely lightweight, and you can understand in about 10 steps, which I think I'll actually just go through in this tech talk right now. And the first is understanding roles. And as The Rock will tell you, it's very important to know your role. The first role is that of a product owner. They act as the voice of the customer, and they determine the priorities for the Scrum. This is the person that has the main vision behind the product. Someone is like the allegory could possibly be like a Steve Jobs at Apple. He kind of had the vision for all the products. The next is defining the team. They do the actual work and they're cross-functional. So in a software development project, this could be 2 front-end designers, 3 back-end guys, a UX designer, things like that. In Scrum, they recommend that teams are at least 3 people so you can get that cross-functionality, but no more than 9 because then it gets kind of unwieldy. Then you have that of a Scrum Master, that role. Then the Scrum Master will coach the team through the Scrum framework as well as remove impediments in the sprint cycles, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's very important that the Scrum Master and the product owner are not the same person because they have a little bit of a push and pull to the relationship. And if they are the same person, you kind of lose that functionality. The 4th step in a Scrum is determining a product backlog. So you gather your team together, you'll create and prioritize a product backlog. And as I spoke before earlier, the product owner will determine the priority of things in this backlog. And unlike the waterfall model, this product backlog will evolve over the lifetime of the product. You'll be able to add new things, take away things, and possibly shift priority. And in this example here, the highest things are the highest priority. So you can't really see, but the user login is the highest priority, as followed by the SSL enablement and things like that. And the product owner will determine that priority again. Once you have the product backlog organized by priority, you will then refine and estimate the product backlog. So the team will estimate how much each item will take. In this example, they use small, medium, large, extra large. So the top two are small, then it's a medium, and then a small. So the team will say, okay, this is how much time it will actually take to accomplish these things. The next thing is the first meeting in a Scrum meeting. It's actually the sprint planning. So the team will take off from the top of the product backlog, because those are the highest priority things, and put that into a sprint backlog. So over the course of 2 weeks, these are the things that we hope to accomplish. So you see that this team here has 3 small items as well as 1 medium item. And it's important, the sprint backlog is not changed. So it's set in stone. You can't add new things to it. Otherwise, everything kind of falls apart. So once you have a sprint backlog and everyone knows what they're going to be working on, then you have a Scrum Board, which I think a lot of us are finding good success with in our capstone through the use of Waffle.io. I personally like to have a more physical one. I like to have the Post-its, but whatever you like is best for you. This makes work very visible, so you can see what people are planning to do, what they're actually working on, and what's done. And I think, like you guys, it feels really good to move something from doing to done, and I think that's a really good part of the Scrum Board. The next thing is a daily stand-up, which we're also implementing. It's something where each team member says, here's what you worked on yesterday, here's what I'm doing today, and here's what anything that was standing in my way. These meetings are called stand-ups. They're only supposed to be 15 minutes long or less. I know a lot of people have probably had jobs where meetings can kind of creep longer and longer. But yeah, these should not be very long. And it just really serves to facilitate communication in the team. And can help really solve problems, because oftentimes my problem yesterday would have been your problem tomorrow, but if I can tell you how I solved that, then obviously that improves the efficiency of the team. Next up is Billy Mays here showing us OxyClean. And I really think that Billy Mays pushed a ton of OxyClean because he had really great demos in his commercials. They really showed how OxyClean just cleaned all the crap off and had really fresh clothes afterwards. And so we should have the same idea in software development. Our demos should really demonstrate what was accomplished during the sprint with a little sizzle to it. I think that's very important. And also, it's important to only demo what is totally and completely finished. Not necessarily an entire product, once again, but at least one feature that is completely finished. And the demos, I think, are just very, very important and cap a sprint cycle. Once you have a demo and you've completed the sprint, you'll talk with your team about what went right, what could have gone better, and what can be made better for the next sprint in a retrospective. And specifically, a Scrum Master will think about what can be made better for the next sprint, and they can help remove those impediments that we talked about earlier. And so this way, going forward, the team can possibly work on not just 3 small items and 1 medium, but maybe 3 small items and 2 mediums, or things like that. And this is a way that a team can become more and more efficient over time. So with that said, I wanted to think about application to full stack projects and beyond. So there is some buy-in that your company has to have like a full product owner and a full Scrum Master. But a lot of the things that I talked about today, and indeed that I think that we're implementing in our capstones, I think we can carry forward as software developers. You don't have to implement a full Scrum to implement a product backlog and a Scrum Board. So product backlog shows every feature that you're going to add, and the Scrum Board once again shows what people are working on and what's been accomplished. And I think having that up and highly visible is really conducive to improving team communication. In addition, the daily stand-up is another thing that I think that I personally want to use wherever I end up. It's really one of the best ways to just let everyone know what everyone else is working on, and is a really great way to facilitate that communication once again. And once you have launched a feature, or indeed a full product, the retrospective, thinking about what went well and what could have gone better, that's very useful, because you're not satisfied with the same old, same old. You want to be improving as a developer. And so with that said, my name is Mitch Kozowski. This was an introduction to Scrum, and thank you very much.